This is Warhawk Beyond 2040, and welcome to a very special edition of the Progressive Rock and Metal album review series. And today I'm going to be taking a look at the amazing and impressive catalogue from my all-time favourite band from the progressive metal genre, and one of the finest bands to ever come out of Poland, and in my honest opinion, the finest collection of musicians ever assembled, and certainly the best band to ever burst onto the scene since Porcupine Tree. And I have had the great pleasure of seeing this incredible band on three different occasions, and they were some of the best shows I have ever been to. And they have been a major force on the scene for well over 2 decades now. They're still going very strong to this day as we speak, and they constantly continue to put out top notch quality music. And for my money, this band has never ever put out a bad album. They don't mess around. These guys are the real deal. And the band that I am talking about needs no introduction whatsoever because, as you can plainly see, I am wearing the t shirt of the band that I am going to be talking about today. The one and only Polish progressive metal band, Riverside. So, Riverside, as I said, my all time favourite band from the progressive metal genre, and as I said, the best band to ever burst onto the scene since Porcupine Tree. And the first time that I became aware of Riverside was through my dad, and I had seen the DVD Reality Dream Live, which to me is an impressive live concert, and I thought they were really good. I thought they were a very unusual band, and one day Riverside played in London. Dad got us tickets, and he pretty much said to me that if you like Steven Wilson or you like Porcupine Tree, I think you're going to like this band. And as I said, I already seen them on DVD, which was the Reality Dream Live DVD, but I had never seen Riverside in person until 2015. So I went to see Riverside in 2015, and it was a fantastic show, one of the best shows I have ever been to. And what I liked about Riverside, which really stood out to me, was the bass was the dominant instrument. Now, obviously, in progressive rock or progressive metal, guitars or keyboards are usually the dominant instrument. You very rarely ever see the bass take center stage. Obviously, with some bands, the bass is a dominant part of the music. Think of bands like Tool, bands like Porcupine Tree, Dream Theater, Pain of Salvation, those bands where the bass was up front, but it wasn't like front and center. The guitars or the keyboards were a big part. But what I liked about Riverside was the lead instrument was the bass. The guitars were still a big part of Riverside's sound, but the bass was front and center. So a lot of the soloing that you would hear was mainly from the bass. So I thought that was quite unique because, as a big fan of the bass, to see the bass instrument up front in the role of where a guitar player would be was very unique and very unusual. But as I said already, the guitars were still a big part of the sound, but the bass was the main focus of the overall sound. And I thought Riverside were an incredible band, and as I said, one of the best shows I have ever seen. And, you know, what more can you say, really? Riverside, for me, the best band, as I said already, to ever come onto the scene since Porcupine Tree. So, Riverside was formed in 2001 by bassist Mariusz Duda, guitarist Peter Grodowinski, drummer Petra Kozodowski, and keyboardist Jacek Melenicki. And throughout Riverside's history as a band, they have had a couple of lineup changes. They've had two guitarists and two keyboardists, and of course, one drummer, and of course, one bass player. And for me, the classic lineup of Riverside is Mariusz Duda, Peter Gradowinski, Peter Kozlowski, and Michal Laplage. That to me is the classic Riverside lineup, and that lineup was pretty much the main one throughout most of Riverside's history as a band. And throughout their career, they've dabbled in a number of different styles. And the best way I can describe Riverside is if you were to take elements of Pink Floyd, Porcupine Tree, Dream Theater, and Pain of Salvation, sprinkle it with a little bit of Tangerine Dream and a little bit of Dead Can Dance, you would get Riverside. That's the best way I can describe Riverside's music. It's very heavy, at times very atmospheric, at times very proggy. There's even some ambience in there as well. Very electronic driven, very experimental. You name it, it's all there. They can thrash it out with the best of them. There's even the occasional screams and growling. Riverside can do it all. To me, they are the whole package. And what I have always liked about Riverside, although Marius Duda, he's the front man, he's the main guy, unlike Porcupine Tree, where, all due respect to them, fantastic band. I love Porcupine Tree. I love Stephen Wilson. Porcupine Tree is very much Stephen Wilson's band. Whereas with Riverside, on the other hand, what I've always liked about them is they're a band. Everyone is an equal, everyone pulls their weight, and it's not a case of one guy telling the others what to do. They all work together as one cohesive unit, and that's what I've always liked about Riverside. And to me, that's what makes Riverside so special because they're not just a band of hired guns. This is a band that's like a family. They're like a band of brothers, and that to me is what makes Riverside so special. And when you see them live, you really get the sense that they enjoy playing with each other. They really enjoy being around each other. It's not like bands where they just don't like each other. You really feel the love and the warmth with Riverside, and it shows in their music and in their playing. And that to me is what makes Riverside such a special band to me. So, for today's special edition, I'm going to be taking a look at the amazing and impressive catalogue of Riverside, which is a total of 10 albums, 8 studio albums, and 2 EPs. And as I said earlier, I can honestly tell you now there is no bad album in this catalogue. This catalogue is remarkably strong. Any one of these albums could be a number one. That's how good Riverside really are. And as I said before, they don't mess around. They are the real deal. And they continue to put out top notch quality music of the highest order. And this is not going to be easy because I love every single one of these albums. Obviously, there are some that are a little bit better than others, but I think what people will come to learn and appreciate and ultimately respect Riverside is it's all about the music. Riverside don't try to be something that they're not. They stick to their guns and they just do their job and they do their job really well. So, as always, I'm going to be talking about each album individually and I'll be choosing which one I think is the best one, which, quite frankly, is going to be extremely tough for me because, as I said already, I love every single one of these albums, and this could very well be my biggest challenge to date, having to choose which Riverside album I think is the best. So, with that all said, let's not waste any more time. Let's just get straight into it. So, we're going to start with the first album, which came out in 2004, and this one is called Out of Myself. This is the debut album from Riverside. Absolutely fantastic. This is a true classic. No duff track whatsoever. Every track from start to finish is amazing. And a lot of my favorite Riverside songs come from this album. And I think this is really special. And the first time that I heard this album, it completely blew me away. It was very dark, very brooding, very atmospheric in some parts, very heavy, very proggy, but highly enjoyable. The production on this album is off the charts. Marius Duda's bass playing is just gnarly. Gradagrinsky's guitar playing is crunchy. Petra's drumming is off the charts. Jasik's keyboard playing is very soulful, but very big at the same time. This album really packed a monstrous punch for me, and whew, absolutely amazing. So, all of the compositions are written and composed by Riverside. So, as I said already, it's very much a band effort, and we've got two instrumentals. This album is just dynamite. So we kick things off with the 11 plus minute epic, The Same River, probably my all time favorite Riverside song. I absolutely love it. It's just very atmospheric, very punchy, very aggressive, and then very soulful and laid back. It's got it all. I absolutely adore this track. It's probably my all time favorite Riverside track. Out of Myself is a great track as well. I Believe is great. Reality Dream Part 1 is just a badass instrumental. Loose Heart, very soulful and then very aggressive towards the end. Absolutely love it. Reality Dream Part 2, absolutely kick ass. In Two Minds, another great track as well. The Curtain Falls, another lovely track. And Okay, it's a very smoky, brooding, menacing track. Love it. Kind of reminds me of an early Porcupine Tree track that I've heard before. But Out of Myself, what a debut for Riverside that pretty much set the tone for what this band was going to be all about. And the standout tracks for me are The Same River, Out of Myself, Loose Heart, Reality Dream Part 2, The Curtain Falls, and Okay. But every song from top to bottom is just excellent. And what a debut. So there you have it. Riverside, Out of Myself, fantastic debut album, and absolutely adore this album. Love it. So we move on to the next album, which came out in 2005, and this one is called Second Life Syndrome. So original keyboardist Jacek Melenicki is gone, and enter Michal Laplage. And for me, this marks the beginning of the classic lineup of Riverside. And this lineup would last for pretty much most of Riverside's existence. And all due respect to Jacek, who is a great keyboard player, Michal Laplage really helped shape and define the overall sound for what we would come to know now. And aside from being a great keyboardist and composer, he's a really good singer and a great backing vocalist as well, and plays a huge part in the music of Riverside. His keyboard playing, very much in the shredding style of playing, but also creates a lot of ambient soundscapes and very much in the style of Tangerine Dream. and he has such a big presence, and he can just fill in lots of different areas of space and just makes everything feel full and complete. And he's just a great all-round musician. So we've got After, which is a great opener. Voltface is an excellent track. Conceiving You, one of my all-time favourite tracks from Riverside. The title track, Second Life Syndrome, which is like a 15-minute epic, which has got some excellent guitar playing from Gradzinski, which at times really channels the spirit of Pink Floyd's David Gilmour. Artificial Smile is another great track. I Turned You Down, which has got some kick-ass bass work and some shredding keyboard playing and some great soulful vocals from Duda. Dance with the Shadow is another great track as well. Before is a great closer as well. The whole album from start to finish is excellent and, in my opinion, a great follow up to Out of Myself. Standout tracks for me are Conceiving You, Second Life Syndrome, Artificial Smile, I Turned You Down, Reality Dream Part 3, and Dance with the Shadow. But every song from top to bottom is just excellent. And as I said already, this for me marked the beginning of the classic lineup of Riverside. Excellent album, and as I said, a great follow up to Out of Myself. Love it. So we move on to the next album, and this is an EP which also came out in 2005, and this is Voices in My Head. So this is an EP, as I said, it's got 5 brand new tracks and 3 live tracks as well. But this is absolutely gorgeous and some great acoustic playing from Marius Duda as well. You know, aside from being a great bass player, he's a great acoustic guitar player as well. So the 3 live tracks we got here are Believe, Loose Hearts, and Out of Myself, which all 3 are just excellent. And the 3 tracks we got here is Us, Acronym Love, DNATS, Ridnam or FRAF, The Time I Was Daydreaming, and Stuck Between, which has got a great beat as well. Absolutely great EP. Standout tracks for me are Us, The Time I Was Daydreaming, and Stuck Between. But absolutely love this EP. And the standout tracks for me from the live tracks is Loose Hearts and I Believe. Love this EP. Absolutely excellent. So there you have it. Voices in My Head. A tremendous EP, in my opinion. Love it. So we move on to the next album, and this came out in 2007, and it's a double album, Rapid Eye Movement. This is another great album. As I said, there's no bad album in this catalogue. This is going to be really tough. But anyway, this album, absolutely amazing and a great follow up to Second Life Syndrome. And this has got some of my favourite tracks from Riverside. So on disc 1, we got Beyond the Eyelids, which is a great opener. Rainbow Box is another great track. O2 Panic Room, love it. Absolutely dark, brooding, and kick ass. Schizophrenic Prayer, which is a great track as well. Parasomnia, which is an excellent track. Through the Other Side, absolutely gorgeous. Embryonic, another great track as well. Cybernetic Pillow, Kick Ass, and Ultimate Trip is just an unbelievable epic. And then on disc 2, we've got Behind the Eyelids, Lucid Dream Part 4, O2 Panic Room Remix, Back to the River, and Rapid Eye Movements. Excellent collection of music. Lots of my favourite songs from Riverside are on this album, and the standout tracks for me are Beyond the Eyelids, Rainbow Box, O2 Panic Room, Schizophrenic Prayer, Parasomnia, Cybernetic Pillow, and Ultimate Dream. And on disc 2, Lucid Dream 4, O2 Panic Room Remix, and Back to the River. But unbelievable album. And what I also love about Riverside, which I haven't mentioned, is I love the album covers. Whoever does the artwork, unbelievable. Really shows you how different all of the albums are. And when you see a Riverside album cover, you know instantly that, yeah, I know that's Riverside. They've got such a unique artwork, and I love it. That's really what makes them set apart from a lot of other bands is the artwork. It's just so unusual but so cool at the same time. So there you have it. Rapid Eye Movement, an excellent album from Riverside, and a great follow up to Second Life Syndrome. Tremendous stuff, and one of my all time favourites from Riverside. Love it. So we move on to the next album, and this one came out in 2009. This is another great one. Anno Domini High Definition. So this album only features 5 tracks, and there's a bonus disc, which is a DVD of a live concert from Amsterdam 2008, and this is excellent. Only 5 tracks, but very long at the same time. Highly enjoyable, and Riverside were really peaking at this time. So we got Hyperactive, which is a great opener. Driven to Destruction is excellent. Egoist, Hedonist, which is made up of 3 parts different. Hedonist Party and Strawman Dance. Excellent track, probably my favourite track of the entire album. Left Out is excellent, and Hybrid Times is another great track. Love this album, absolutely brilliant, and Riverside were getting really red hot by this point. And the standout tracks for me are Egoist, Hedonist, Left Out, and Driven to Destruction. Excellent collection of songs. Only 5 tracks, but incredibly long at the same time, and a great listening experience. So there you have it. Anno Domini, High Definition. Absolutely love this album. Excellent stuff. So we move on to the next album, and this one came out in 2011, and it's an EP. Memories in My Head. So there's only 3 tracks on this one, but still highly enjoyable and some great brooding, menacing tracks from Riverside. So we've got the first track, Goodbye, Sweet Innocence, Living in the Past, and Forgotten Land. So they're all quite relatively long tracks, even though there's only 3, but still highly enjoyable nonetheless. And standout tracks for me are Goodbye, Sweet Innocence and Living in the Past. But great stuff here. Absolutely enjoyable. And one thing I've noticed with Riverside, they normally put out an album and then they'll put out an EP as well. So it's kind of like a little taster of what's coming. So while you're waiting for the new album, they just give you a little appetizer. And I like that, rather than just wait album and then wait for the next album, they just give you like a nice little EP. And the EP's got some great songs as well. That's one thing I like about Riverside. They always pack a lot of great music into an EP. May only have 3 tracks or even 5 tracks, but still highly enjoyable stuff nonetheless. So there you have it. Memories in My Head. Excellent EP and some great songs as well. If you're looking to get into Riverside's music, I think this is definitely one worth checking out. Love it. Absolutely amazing. So we move on to the next album, and this one came out in 2013, and it's a double album, and it's one of my favorites from Riverside. Shrine of New Generation Slaves. So this is a follow up to 2009's Anu Domini High Definition, and this is absolutely amazing. Another one of my favorites from Riverside, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. And it's got lots of my favorite songs, which are on this album as well. And it's very atmospheric. Some parts are very laid back, some parts are very commercial, and some parts are extremely heavy. So it's a double album. So On disc one, we've got New Generation Slave, which is excellent. The Depth of Self Delusion, which is absolutely brilliant. It's one of my favorite Riverside tracks, especially the opening track with the bass. Dum, 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 dum. Absolutely brilliant. Celebrity Touch is another great track. We Got Used to Us, which is absolutely brilliant. Feel Like Falling, which is absolutely gorgeous. Probably my favourite track of the entire album. Deprived, Irreversibly Lost Imagination, which kind of reminds me of Porcupine Tree's Don't Hate Me, which has got some beautiful soprano sax playing. Absolutely love it. It's one of my all-time favourite Riverside songs. Escalator Shrine, which is like 12 minutes long, which is like a shred fest. Absolutely brilliant. And we've got a coda, which is like 1 minute and 39 seconds. And then on disc two, we've got Night Session Part 1 and Night Session Part 2. So they're all quite long tracks, all like 10 to 11 minutes long each. But love this album. Absolutely brilliant. Standout tracks for me are New Generation Slave, The Depth of Self Delusion, Celebrity Touch, We Got Used to Us, Deprived, Irreversibly Lost Imagination, and Escalator Shrine, and Feel Like Falling. But the whole album, from top to bottom, is excellent. And the standout tracks for me on disc two is Night Session Part 2. Love this album, one of my all time favourites from Riverside, and very similar to Porcupine Tree. As I said, if you listen to the music of Riverside and put it up against Porcupine Tree, there are lots of similarities, but Riverside are very much their own beast. So there you have it. Shrine of New Generation Slaves. Absolutely excellent. One of my all time favourites from Riverside. Love it. So we move on to the next album, and this one came out in 2015, and it's a double album, and again, one of my all-time favorites from Riverside, and I was very lucky to catch the band during this tour, and this one is called Love, Fear, and the Time Machine. So for me, this was when Riverside really started to hit their stride and really reach their peak as a band, and for me, Riverside have never sounded better than they do here. Everyone is on top form and everyone really brings it and everyone's on their A game. And a lot of my favourite songs from Riverside are from this album. And I got to see them during this tour and it was my first time. One of the best shows I've ever seen. Absolutely excellent. So on disc one, we've got Lost, Why Should I Be Frightened by a Hat? Great opener, very soulful, very atmospheric. Maris Duda's vocals are just absolutely beautiful, and his bass playing is just off the charts. Under the Pillow, with Gradobinski's guitar playing all over it, it's just excellent. Hashtag Addicted, a great poppy track, but still love it. Really, really good. And the bass playing at the beginning, love it. Absolutely brilliant. Caterpillar and the Barbed Wire, excellent. Saturates Me, another great track as well, one of my favourites. Afloat, brilliant. Discard Your Fear, excellent. Towards Blue Horizon, absolutely beautiful. Time Travelers is excellent. Found the Unexpected Flaw of Searching, great track as well. And then on disc two, we've got Heavenland, Return, Avir, Machines, and Promise. But great collection of songs. Everyone is on top form. And for me, Riverside really peaked with this album. And the standout tracks for me are Love, Why Should I Be Frightened by a Hat? Under the Pillow, Addicted, Caterpillar and the Barbed Wire, Saturates Me, Discard Your Fear, Towards the Blue Horizon, and Found the Unexpected Flaw of Searching. And on disc two, Heavenland, Machines, and Promise. Great album, one of Riverside's best ones ever, and got to see them live, got to see him play a lot of this. Absolutely excellent. Love it. And unfortunately, that would mark the end of the classic lineup of Riverside, as guitarist Peter Gradagrinski would sadly pass away in 2016, and this would put Riverside on hiatus for well over a year. And there was a lot of uncertainty whether or not we would see Riverside play again. And such a devastating loss because Peter Gradowinski, an unbelievable guitar player, had been in the band since the band started, and his guitar playing was such a huge part of Riverside's sound. And for me, dearly missed, and his spirit and memory lives on. And what a monster guitar player, and really channeled the spirit of David Gilmour, but also came up with his own unique voice, which to me really helped shape the musical identity of Riverside. And such a sad loss. Really miss Petra Gradogrinski every single day, and hard to believe it's been well over 8 years now since his passing, but he's seriously missed every single day. He was definitely taken from us far too soon. So we move on to the next album, and this one came out in 2018, and this one is called Wasteland. So Wasteland sees Riverside returning with a vengeance. So they are pretty much a trio by this point, and there's guest guitarists, and even after a year and a half away from the scene, Riverside return better than ever and deliver a very emotional album. And they don't miss a single beat. They come back better than ever and more stronger than ever. It's a lot more heavier than some of the previous Riverside albums, but you can feel the McColony in the music, and you could feel and hear the pain in the playing. But it's a fantastic album. To come back after a couple of years away with this kind of album is a true testament to the kind of band that Riverside are. They just continue to thrive and continue to deliver top notch quality music. So, as I said already, a lot of the musicians that are featured on here are guests. So, Marius Duda, of course, plays bass, he's playing piccolo bass, banjo, lead vocals, electric and acoustic guitars. Petra Kozlowski on drums, Michal Laplage on keyboards, piano, and Hammond organ. And guest musicians we got on here are Makiej Mela, who we'll talk about in a moment. He would go on to play a very big, important role in Riverside. Mikhail Januk on violin, and Matus Okazarik on guitar. And all of the compositions are written and composed by Marius Duda, with the exception of three tracks, which are co-composed by Marius Duda and Michael Laplage, and one track music by Michael Laplage, and Marius Duda provided lyrics as well. So very much a band effort. As I said, very dark, very heavy, but classic Riverside. So we got the first track, The Day After. Then we got Acid Rain, which is made up of two parts, Where Are We Now and Dancing Ghosts. Excellent stuff. Marius is really shredding it up on piccolo bass. Vale of Tears, excellent track. Guardian Angel is another great track as well. Lament is a great track. And the epic, The Struggle for Survival, which is like over 9 minutes long, which is made up of two parts, Dystopia and Battle Royal. River Down Below, another great track as well. Wasteland, which is another epic as well, which is the title track. And the gorgeous and haunting The Night Before, which is kind of like a tribute to Petra Gradogrinski, which is just Marius on vocals and Michael Laplage on piano absolutely beautiful and really brings a tear to your eye. And even though Peter Gradogrinski isn't on this album, sadly, you could really feel his presence and you could really feel how much these guys miss him and how much Petra meant to these guys. So it's a really great track. And then got a bonus track, which is like an edit of River Down Below. But excellent album and a great comeback to top form for Riverside. And the standout tracks for me are The Day After, Acid Rain, Laments, River Down Below, Wasteland, and The Nights Before. Excellent stuff. Love it. One of Riverside's most emotional albums of their entire catalogue. Love it. So we move on to the next album, and this one came out in 2023, and it's a double album, and this one is called ID Entity. So Wasteland saw Riverside return as a trio featuring guest guitarists, and now fast forward to 2023, Riverside return with not only a brand new album, but a brand new lineup with the addition of guitarist Makesh Mela, who was a touring member for Riverside for a few years and is now made a permanent member of the band. And he's a very different kind of guitar player to Peter Gradogrinski. He brings a much more rockier approach to the music, whereas Peter Gradogrinski, he was more about the sounds and creating lots of lush guitar soundscapes, but still very crunchy in his guitar playing. Mella brings much more of a rockier approach, but he's still an amazing guitar player, and he's featured quite a lot on this album, and he plays a huge part in the music. And you could tell with him in the band, it's breathed new life into Riverside, and he really has turned the band around and just made them even more better, if that's possible. And the others sound great as well, but Mella, his guitar playing really stands out on this album. So ID Entity, bit more of a poppier album, but still got plenty of heavy, epic stuff that Riverside are known for. But love it. It's a really good album. So on this one, we got Friend or Foe, which is excellent. Landmine Blast, which is great. Big Tech Brother, unbelievable. Post Truth, another great track as well. And then we got the epic The Place Where I Belong, which is one of my favourite tracks. I'm Done With You, another favourite track of mine. And Self Aware, which is another great track as well. And then on disc two, we got Age of Anger, which is almost like 12 minutes long. Unbelievable. Together Again, another great track. And then we got two single edits, Friend or Foe and Self Aware. But ID Entity, absolutely excellent. A very strong album and a real return to form for Riverside. Brilliant album. And the standout tracks for me on this one are Friend or Foe, The Place Where I Belong, I'm Done With You, and Self Aware. And disc two, Age of Anger. Great album. Love it. And this is Riverside back with a vengeance, bigger and better than ever, and one of their absolute best. Really good and very strong and right up there with Riverside's best albums. So there you have it. ID Entity, one of the best Riverside albums to date, and a brand new lineup which is thriving to this day as we speak. Excellent stuff. Absolutely love it. So, which Riverside album do I think is the best one? Well, after discussing each Riverside album and EP, they're all good. They're all fantastic. There's no bad album in this catalogue. As I said at the beginning, any one of these albums could easily be a number one because that's how remarkably strong this catalogue is. But if I had to choose one Riverside album that I feel is their best one, I've got to go with Out of Myself, the debut album, which to me is an all time classic. All of Riverside's best tracks for me are from this album, and wow, these guys really came out with a bang, and it's just an incredible album, and very dark, very brooding, very atmospheric, very heavy in some parts, and all of it from start to finish. It's just excellent, and it really helped set the tone for what Riverside were going to be all about. And to think that this album came out over 20 years ago and still sounds as fresh as it does as the day it first came out, it's just a true testament to how amazing Riverside really are. So there you have it. Out of Myself, for me, the best Riverside album ever. But any of these other albums could easily be a number one. But for me, I always go back to this one the most. I just think it's a classic, in my opinion. So there you have it. Riverside, Out of Myself, for me, the best album they have ever put out. Love it. So that's going to be it from me. I am going to wrap this up now. What's your favourite album from Riverside? Is it Out of Myself, Second Life Syndrome, Voices in My Head, Rapid Eye Movement, Anu Domini High Definition, Memories in My Head, Shrine of New Generation Slaves, Love, Fear and the Time Machine, Wasteland, or ID Entity? There's no right or wrong answer. We all have our favourite albums. You know what to do, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below, and I will see all of you next time for another edition of the Progressive Rock and Metal album review series. So until then, take care, everybody, and stay safe. And once again, as always, much appreciated. Thanks for listening.